This year, official NSSO data confirmed that India's unemployment rates were the highest in 45 years. Even as debate over how bad the unemployment issue continues, there is now some data that acts like a ray of hope. The latest data from the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy that regularly tracks these numbers on employment shows rural employment in the month of September is at its best in 3 years. Is this a change in trend or a spike due to a lower base? For more on this, I'm joined now by MD and CEO of CMIE, Mahesh Vyas. Mr. Vyas, my first question is, of course, regarding the data which everyone is talking about. I want to understand how optimistic we must get looking at the September data. Does this show a change in trend, or is this just a blip which we're seeing on the back of a lower base compared to last year?
I think we should just be happy to see an increase in employment in September. This is not a base effect, but this is the effect of a clubbing of the Kharif sowing season in September. So Kharif sowing had slowed down in July and August, and there was a pickup that happened in September. So while only around 3 million hectares of area are sown under the Kharif crop in September usually, this time it was more than 5 million hectares. So when you see such a sharp increase in the sowing activity during a particular month, then it does show up in employment as well, and that's exactly what has happened this time. So this is not a sustainable increase in employment, but nevertheless there is an increase for sure.
Overall, have we seen an improvement compared to 2018? 2018 was when CMIE said that we've lost 11 million jobs in this year. We've finished 9 months of this year. Have you seen a change in trend? And how do you see the trends right now in employment in the context of the economic slowdown we're all talking about?
So we saw about 11 million jobs being lost in 2018. That certainly is not repeating itself in 2019. We're not seeing another 10-11 million jobs being lost. We are seeing stability in jobs now, and in September we did see an increase. So I would say jobs are increasing at an extremely slow rate. The more important thing is that people are coming back into the labor force. So the labor force participation rate has stopped falling and employment has started inching up a little bit. So it's not as bad as 2018, but we are still not anywhere close to what we used to be in 2016. So there's a long way to go, but we have stopped sliding down.
What are the biggest reasons you see for this change in trend in the first few months of 2019? Are you seeing an easing of the effects of policy changes like demonetization and GST, and that's why the recovery is moving? So
I think the employment scenario has been weak in a trend sense. So low investments has led to low growth in employment. So this has been the story for a long time now, from 11-12. But we saw these big shocks of demonetization and GST in 2016 and 2017 that led to huge job losses. So that job loss emanating from these two shocks story is now more or less over. We are back to the old grind that no investments leads to no growth in jobs. So we got to fix this bigger problem after having emerged from that shock of demonetization and GST.
Can you contextualize this, Mr. Vyas, with the current economic slowdown we're seeing, especially in the context of lower demand? Now, the latest RBI report also talks about consumer confidence dropping. We are seeing a lot of the slowdown coming from a drop in demand. How do you relate that to the employment figures in 2018? Do you see a lag effect of that, which is leading to the slump in consumption demand? And if that logic is correct, can we see a pickup then in a few months from now in consumption linked to better employment rates?
So, no, I think there is only a stoppage of the decline in employment. There is no reason to believe that employment is increasing robustly. The numbers of September 19 are just an outlier because of the monsoon effect in September. But for the rest, employment is more or less stable. I don't see employment having grown so much as to have an impact upon consumption expenditure as yet. That hasn't happened. Until we don't get the investment story right, till we don't see investments come back aggressively, and it will take at least a year and a half for us to see investments come in and show up as employment and then show up as consumption expenditure. So no, I'm not looking at a turnaround.
Let me talk about a bit about the slowdown narrative that we're seeing around us right now, and of course it started with that 5% quarterly GDP data, which confirmed what a lot of people feared. Right now, though, and the data is very less right now, but anecdotally, people are talking about some kind of an uptick in auto sales, or at least inquiries. Online sales are giving some kind of an optimism. Do you think that we can be a little more optimistic at this point in light of all the measures the government has announced? Where do you stand in your view on the slowdown scenario right now, Mahesh?
The government has taken a few measures recently to try and improve the economic scenario. Some of them will lead to better profitability of companies, but I don't think this is translating into investments. And if this does not translate into investments, I have no reason to be optimistic about a turnaround happening very soon. So, if you are saying that there is an uptick in the demand for automobiles, demand for other things, etc., I don't think there is any evidence which is strong enough on that. I must though say that even the decline that we spoke about earlier, the sharp fall in automobiles, for example, was balanced with fairly good sales of refrigerators and air conditioners. So the fall wasn't as bad as it was made out to be, and the increase that you're talking about is not evident. So I think we are kind of stable. We are not seeing any uptick.
Okay. Just one comment on what the new IMF chief has said. When she's spoken about a global synchronized slowdown, she's also talked about how it is more pronounced in countries like India and Brazil, and how developing nations will also feel the pinch. There has long been a debate, Mahesh, about whether what we're seeing in India is a part of a larger global phenomenon, or is this pushed by our own domestic reasons. Do you think that the IMF chief's statement points to a global scenario playing out in India as well?
Well, the IMF chief statements regarding the global economy is obviously worth taking note of, and the global slowdown is something that we should worry about. It does make life a little more complicated and challenging for us, were it not for this complication. But our problem is essentially domestic, and India is underperforming compared to the expectations that the world has on it. So we were growing at 7% and raring to go at 8 and even more than 8%, where our expectations are down to 5 to 6% now. This certainly is a great disappointment. It's a disappointment to India watchers, and it's a disappointment to the world economy at large as well. So, but the story is largely within India. I don't think we can blame global headwinds for our slowdown. Our slowdown is our story essentially, and only partly a global story. We are underperforming, and the IMF chief is only reminding that we are underperforming.
How confident are you, Mahesh, to see a change in this trend domestically in the Indian economy in light of all the measures that are being taken and sort of the willingness the government has shown to move ahead and take steps and do what's needed?
Well, the government has certainly shown great keenness to do something. It has taken recognition, taken into account in its thinking that there is an economic challenge that the country faces and that needs to be addressed. So that's a big plus. Second, it has the finance minister has persistently come on television, come to the media and spoken about the measures she's taking to improve the economy. Clear messages have been sent out and measures taken to improve the economic sentiment. While all this is commendable, if I look at the specific measures taken so far, they don't seem to be directly addressing the most important issue, which is that the corporate sector of India is not investing. A cut in the corporate tax rates is unlikely to change that. So it's not that it's profitability that is hurting them alone. It is probably also demand that is hurting and not spurring them into investments. So I think while the government is taking a lot of measures to improve the situation, which is a good evidence of its recognition of the problem, the specific measures taken, I don't think are going to make a material difference in the short run.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mahesh, for speaking with us, MD and CEO of CMIE, Mahesh Vyas. Talking about an uptick in rural employment figures in September. We don't know how long the trend will last, but it's good to have some good news on this front. That's all the time we have this evening on the India Development Debate. Thank you for joining us.